Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Oh man, yesterday was kind of a busy news day. A lot of things going on. It was announced that Biden has a new tax plan. Wants to raise taxes by $2 trillion. That's with a T, folks, $2 trillion. But don't worry, it's only gonna be on them rich folks. Maybe. Well, sorta. And, even if it is just on the rich folks, that history has proven that doing that isn't just simple, easy either. It's gonna cause a lot of people that on paper may look rich, but it's just the business that they own. Because they make $400,000 a year, maybe it's their business that makes that. And if they're going to be paying more taxes and actually earning less, they may downsize the business. So typically, raising taxes like this doesn't work out so well for the economy. In fact, raising any taxes or having any taxes whatsoever is not a good thing. It always amazes me how government's solution is to steal more of your money instead of, why don't we stop spending so much money? Last night, Russia did a pretty serious missile offense against Ukraine in retaliation of Ukraine's attacks inside of Russia last week. They struck targets in Kiev and in parts of western Ukraine. Pretty significant. I was reading this morning that about 40% of the country is without power, knocked out power to some of the nuclear power plants, things like that. It's all still early on that to see what kind of significant damage has been done. Protests all over the place. France is doing a lot of protesting. Looks like Georgia, the country, not the state. My guess is it's CIA op going on, but a lot of the people they're protesting and they're wanting to overthrow their government. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. I just have a feeling it's probably being done by the CIA, but that's just my opinion. What I wanted to talk about today, though, is something that I don't know that anyone may have cued in on it if they saw it. It's one of those things that happens in the news and it just gets buried because it doesn't seem very significant. And maybe it's my weird mind, I don't know. But I happened across it yesterday. And it actually jumped out at me as being maybe one of the more significant things that was said in the news yesterday. And was even reading some of the comments of this little video clip, and no one seemed to really, see the things that I saw. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm some brilliant whatever. I'm just weirdo, right? Just a Ozark hillbilly. But anyways, so it was an interview by CNN with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about. The Secretary of DHS. They were talking about immigration. And a lot of people in the comments were saying that he said this to kind of, take pressure off of the fact that he and the United States government is not handling the border crisis and immigration problem. And that there's truth in that also. But what he was saying is when she was kind of asking him questions about the border and immigration and, so many people coming across the border, he said, honestly, this isn't even just an American problem. This has become a global phenomenon. He said, for one of the first times in history, which is not correct, I'll get on that in a second, he said, we're seeing mass migration all over the world. And he listed off several countries that have had to call military to their border or they've had to increase their own border patrol all over the world, not just in the Western Hemisphere, all over the world. We're seeing countries having immigration problems. And he said, we're just seeing global mass migration. The whole planet, there's just people all over that are migrating. He said, and it's not just an American issue. He said it's everywhere. Now, of course, he's actually correct. It's all over the world. People are migrating for various reasons, apparently, but they're doing it nonetheless. The reason why I think that this is significant is because this isn't the first time in history this has happened. In fact, this is actually a common thing in history, that people go through these cycles of mass migration. And the reason why I think it's significant that he points it out is because the reason why, it's very telling on what's happening on a global stage right now. I believe, and many others, that we are entering a phase of human history of collapse and catastrophe. There's all sorts of obvious examples of that all over the world. We talk about those things pretty much every day on this channel, about how there's all these wars and political problems and social economic problems that are happening, that these are global things. We think about them from the perspective of Americans, but the fact is that they're happening everywhere. On top of that, though, we are also experiencing global changes. In a natural sense, we're seeing climate changes. No, I'm not talking about the green, cuddly tree people that, talk about man-made climate. I'm talking about actual, real climate change. We're watching it happen. We're seeing rains in places that it shouldn't be raining that much. We're seeing drought in places that should be a lot of rain. We're seeing snow in areas that shouldn't be getting it. We're seeing lots of warmth and heat in other places that shouldn't have that. We're seeing earthquakes, volcanoes. We're seeing the earth shifting and moving. I mean, a lot of things happening, but it's not just here on earth either. It's out in the atmosphere. We're watching the sun go through very active stages. It just seemed to be more and more. There's all kinds of talk and very strong evidence that we are in the beginning stages of a pole shift, and many of you know all about that. A pole shifting. We're watching our Earth, our planet, our home, go through major, massive changes. And this is not the first time of that. There's certainly lots of places in the Bible that you can read about it happening in the past, and that it will happen again in the future. Among the many things that myself and a few others talk about from a biblical perspective of the wickedness that's going on in this world and the wars and everything, something else that the Bible talks about a lot is just the changes of this earth, of how things will change from a natural sense, the amount of earthquakes and destruction. I believe that we are in a cycle that's happened many times in our past. And the point that I'm getting to is that every time one of these cycles happens, humans migrate. They move. They get out of where they're at and they try to move to a place that could be a little bit safer. In fact, and I'm not saying that this is absolutely true. I'm just telling you some scientific studies that I've read in the past, that the vast majority of human migration in history usually centers around some major global collapse or a cataclysmic change. I mean, going back thousands of years, that's usually the case of why people in mass move from one place to the other. I mean, you could go through empires that have fallen in the past and watch how the people scatter. There's also theories that humans have a natural instinct that's very much like animals, even though they may not consciously be aware of it. Over the last few years, there have been all sorts of reports of animals migrating to areas that they've never gone to, at least not on record. That fish and elephants and birds and all sorts of other animals are moving out of particular areas and migrating to other areas. And a lot of times it has science baffled. They don't understand this. Why is this happening? Well, there's theories that this is happening because animals have this sense that something's about to change. And they feel this desire to get out of that area before the change happens. It's much like how, you can know when an earthquake is happening a lot of times if moments before you see a bunch of birds leaving the area, or animals, deer, things like that. Kind of the same thing. And this has been happening. And a lot of people, maybe some, maybe not a lot, believe that humans do the same thing. I can tell you with experience, just here in my area, I've talked to countless people that have been compelled to move here because of safety. And it's not just because I get on here and say it. I've met people that didn't even know that I have a YouTube channel or anything like that. And some of them have told me that God has told them that they felt this drawing of the spirit to move here, to get to safety. And then I've talked to others that say they really don't know what it was. They just felt this calling to get out of wherever they were at and to move somewhere safe. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because we have this Secretary of Homeland Security saying that we're seeing mass migration all over the planet. We're seeing people all over the planet leave where they're at and move to another place. And maybe it's because the political changes in that area have caused them to want to leave. Maybe it's because of wars. Maybe it's because of famine. For whatever reason, people are moving. And typically, when you look throughout history, that happens when the earth is getting ready to go through a major change, some type of major collapse. And so, going back to his little interview with CNN, the reason why I think it's significant, whether he did it on purpose, knowingly that he was saying this, or it was just some facts that he was spilling and he didn't really understand the significance of it, I think that we are seeing human migration happen on a very massive scale all over the world. And personally, I believe it's because we are entering a phase of just chaos and collapse happening everywhere. I try to at times get the point across on this channel that for us Americans, and I know that some of you aren't in America, I get that, but 85 to 90% of those of you watching this channel are Americans, so I'm just talking to the masses right now. Generally speaking, the majority of you see all of these problems happening as an American issue. And very possibly, those of you in other countries view it as a Canadian issue or a German issue or whatever. We get kind of narrowly minded and focused because of the area that we live in. That these things are happening because it's America. It's an American issue. And that's not true at all. The stuff that's happening, it's a global issue. And some of it, like we talk about all the time, is being orchestrated and done. And some of it is naturally occurring because the earth itself is going through changes. And it's very, very possible that the orchestrated part is being done because they know the natural part is happening. which leads me to the fact that everything that's happening now, I think, is vastly more significant than what we as a people have gone through, maybe ever, and certainly recently. It's a significant thing. We're watching so much happen that it's overwhelming. I still see people like, oh, you're blowing it out of proportion, man. You just tried to get some more of them clicks. Oh, you're hyping it up. How am I hyping it up? I'm just telling you what's happening. I'm not telling you the sky has fallen and run for the hills and crawl into your bunkers and we're all gonna die. I'm just telling you what's happening. I'm just reporting on the news. I don't see how that's hyping anything up. Fact is these things are happening, and they're happening at a much greater pace and significance and intensity than any of us have ever seen before. Happening all the time. And I don't believe it's just because we have so much, news. Everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone's reporting on it, the internet. I mean, that's part of it, but I don't think that's the only thing. I think these things really are happening at a much faster and more intense pace than we've ever seen before. And I believe that's happening because we are going through a phase of cataclysmic change on this planet, both naturally and man-made. And this, my friend, is really the reason why you should be preparing. Because it doesn't matter whether it's some type of global war or economic collapse or the next pandemic or whatever that is that's going to happen. Things are rapidly changing. And it's very possible that it's just a cycle that we're going through. And a lot of people believe that this is the final cycle, and that's very likely so. But either way, we are going through a cycle of cataclysmic change, of destruction, of collapse, of population reduction, whether it be done forcibly or naturally. We're watching it happen. You need to get ready, folks. Need to be getting your houses in order, preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. No joke. Get ready. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.